My beloved child, I speak to you in this moment as the one who knows the past, the present, and the future of your soul, as a father who has watched every step you have taken across roads marked by dust, winds, and tears. Today I bend down to tell you something deeply serious, deeply tender, and also profoundly urgent. You have sensed within yourself that something is different, as if time itself is tightening, as if an invisible bell is ringing in the depths of your spirit, telling you that this is no longer a day like all the others. I declare to you, there is only a short window of time left, not to frighten you, but to awaken you. For some opportunities belong to this temporary world and soon fade away. But there are also spiritual moments, divinely appointed as sacred markers in your life, when all that I have been quietly weaving begins to rise to the surface. Today, I want you to understand that you are standing at one of those markers, a turning point that has to do not merely with the numbers in your bank account, but with the way you see me, the way you see yourself, and the inheritance I wrote your name into before the foundation of the world. You have heard many promises, shouted from many voices, the voice of the marketplace, the voice of advertisements, the voice of invitations that promise a new life in an instant, the voice of so-called secrets that claim to make you rich if you follow a few simple steps. These voices strike at your exhaustion, at your unpaid bills, at the nights you have spent awake calculating how to stretch what little you have, at the breathlessness you feel when you see others full while you remain in lack. I do not blame you for the moments your heart wavered, for the moments you wanted to grab hold of any straw that might offer even a small relief. I have seen it all. I understand it all. And my love for you has never shifted. But today I come to remind you that I am not one of those salesmen. I do not compete for your attention with flashy tactics or mystical formulas. I am the true and living God, the only one who has the authority to declare what belongs to you, what is being entrusted to you, and what inheritance cannot be taken from you because it is not built on illusion or deception. It is time for me to remind you, you have a portion in the spiritual inheritance I have established. Not because you are flawless, not because you have never failed, not because you know how to follow every step correctly as the world demands, but because I chose you with a love that existed before any mistake you have ever made. I saw you when you were only a thought in my heart. I called your name before anyone on earth knew you existed. I assigned to you a destiny far beyond what you think you deserve. No matter what your financial situation looks like today, no matter what others say about you, no matter how many failures sit in the folder of your life, the truth in heaven remains unchanged. You are an heir, not a beggar at the gates of heaven. You are not standing in a lottery line hoping to get lucky enough to receive a miracle. You are standing on a covenant sealed by the blood of the Redeemer. The inheritance I speak of is not a quick fix for a new life, but a plan that is steady, deep, and overflowing with grace. My child, I know how tired your heart has grown from having to manage everything yourself. You have lived in constant strain, always forcing your mind to run a few steps ahead to survive the days ahead, always fearing that if you do not exhaust yourself, no one will help, no one will stand with you, even in your spiritual walk. There were moments when you unconsciously treated me like a demanding employer, believing that you had to do enough, be good enough, have enough faith, perform well enough for me to pay attention. So when you heard promises about money, resources, and inheritance, there was a part of you that both longed for them and feared being deceived again. I do not condemn your caution. I long to heal it. I do not ask you to close your eyes and trust blindly, I come to open your eyes so you can clearly see the difference between cheap promises and the promises spoken by the faithful one. Remember that in Scripture, I once spoke to the widow at Zarephath, a woman who had nothing left but a handful of flour and a little oil. I did not promise her that a hidden treasure would suddenly appear so she would never need to work again. I promised her that the jar of flour would not be depleted and the jug of oil would not run dry during the famine. I did not choose a miracle that made her wealthy and renowned, but I gave her another kind of abundance, the abundance of preservation, the abundance of faithfulness, the abundance of a supply that never ran out while everything around her was scarce. That teaches you that my provision does not always take the shape of a sudden large sum, but it always bears the mark of constancy, kindness, and companionship. I can give you great surprises, but what I value even more than money is the safety of your soul, that whether you have much or little, you know you belong to me, are covered by me, guided by me, and taught by me to steward what I place into your hands. So when I tell you that an inheritance is being transferred, I want you to understand that I am first speaking of an inward shift from fear to trust, from living as one abandoned to living as one beloved, from believing you deserve crumbs to daring to sit at the table I have prepared for you. With that foundation, outward miracles become true blessings rather than burdens or traps. If I were to pour wealth into your hands while your mind remains chained to fear, shame, or the need to prove yourself, you would simply live in a different prison, one with golden walls. But when I heal your vision, when I remind you that you are my child, my heir, one sent with purpose, then regardless of how much or how little I give you in each season, you will know how to live in freedom, my beloved child. Now I stand at the door of your heart, calling your name with gentleness and unshakable resolve. I do not force you, but I will not stay silent. I ask you, are you willing to step out of the old mindset, the belief that blessing is only money, that inheritance is only a bank balance, that my love is only proven through visible gain? Are you willing to believe that I am preparing something that touches both your material needs and the deepest roots of your soul? Are you willing to let me lead you step by step rather than chasing a shortcut that promises instant results? I do not promise you a fairy tale. I promise you a real journey, one with tears but also miracles, with waiting but also restoration, with discipline but also freedom, with your part to play and with my divine intervention woven through each moment. If your heart is trembling gently right now, if deep within you feel as though an invisible thread is pulling you closer to me, that is not an illusion. That is my spirit touching you, affirming that these words are not for someone else, but for you, the one who has thought many times that they were forgotten. You do not need to shout. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You only need, in the quiet, to whisper to me, I want to listen. I want to learn to live as your heir. I no longer want to cling to cheap promises. I want to hold the holy promise of the Father. That whisper, even trembling, I hear clearly, and from that moment, I will begin opening before you each door, each curtain, each page in the scroll that bears your name, so you may see that I was never silent without purpose. I was simply waiting for the right hour to speak. And now, my child, this is one of those hours. My beloved child, I know there have been nights when you lay still in the darkness, not crying aloud, yet feeling as if a heavy stone had been placed upon your chest, nights when you could not pray with words, when all you could manage was a breath, a sigh, and a quiet wondering whether I still heard you at all. You assumed my silence was a sign that I had abandoned you. But my child, that silence was not absence. It was my work in depths your ears could not hear, your eyes could not see, and your mind could not comprehend. I was there. Every tear you swallowed, I counted. Every time you tried to rise after disappointment, I witnessed. Every fragile thought you tried to keep from breaking in the storm, I knew. There are things I do not answer immediately, because if I answered too soon, you would think it was a coincidence. If I opened the door too quickly, you would not know it was I who held the key. If I blessed you before you were ready, the blessing would become a burden rather than joy. I do not stay silent to punish you. I stay silent to strengthen you, to sharpen your discernment, to teach you how to hear my voice instead of the world's noise. You do not realize that in those days that felt meaningless, I was pulling you away from things that would destroy you, shielding you from doors that looked good but were traps of the enemy, separating you from ties that would dry out your spirit in the future. You have asked me, Lord, do you hear my prayers? Why do I ask and see nothing change? And I declare, yes. I hear every sound, every longing, every repeated whisper spoken when no one else is watching. But I want you to understand that in my kingdom, prayer is not merely a request, it is a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not see it for the first few days. It lies beneath the soil, in the dark, splitting open, dying in part, before life begins to rise. You think the soil is still, but powerful transformations are happening beneath it. Likewise, your prayers have reached realms your eyes have not seen, have shaken things your future will need, and have been gathered into the golden bowls of heaven. Micah 7:7 says, "But as for me, I will look to the Lord, I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me." You imagine I hear from a distance, but truly, I hear as a father placing his hand upon your heart to feel every trembling beat. My child, not one word of yours is forgotten. Not one tear is lost into the void. Not one faithful step, even the smallest, escapes my attention. When you choose what is right in silence, I see. When you show kindness though you yourself are lacking, I record it. When you choose forgiveness instead of revenge, resilience instead of collapse, faith instead of bitterness, these quiet choices open doors before you that you did not know you carried the keys for. I know there are moments when you look at your life and think, I have nothing special. I am simply surviving day by day, trying not to fall. But I want you to see yourself through the eyes of heaven, not through your own weary perception. You are a soul already registered in my book. You are not someone walking in the shadows hoping to be noticed. You are one I have appointed, marked, and guarded. When people dismiss you, I do not. When they leave you, I do not. When they forget their promises, I remember every word I have spoken over you. I declare to you that a sealed scroll is being opened at this time. That scroll does not contain random events, but promises I engraved with your name before you came into being. You think everything has ended, that your story has shrunk into mere endurance. But I am the Alpha and the Omega. I define beginnings, and I decide when a new chapter must turn. The inheritance I am preparing for you is not merely financial, though I know well your practical needs. It is restoration. It is vindication. It is the return of what was stolen from your soul. It is me placing you in the position you were worthy of long ago but never had the opportunity to stand in. It is my display before your eyes and before the eyes of those who once scorned you that I have always been with you. Those who mocked you will be stunned. Those who belittled you will witness me lifting you up, not so that you may boast, but so that they may know that you were raised not by human power, but by the hand of the Almighty. The season of hiding is over. You have lived in years of being concealed, not to be forgotten, but to be protected. For had I placed you in the light too soon, what was unripe would have been swept away by the winds of the world. But now, my child, I declare the season of public blessing is beginning. What I do for you will no longer be hidden. What I transfer to you will no longer be delayed. If you believe your name has been engraved in gold in my heavenly record, let your heart whisper, I believe. No one else needs to hear it. I do, and I will answer, my beloved child. I want you to listen not only with your ears, but with your soul. For what I am about to speak is not merely to soothe your weariness, it is to reshape the identity, the value, and the destiny I placed in you long before you learned to name your fears. My child, still your heart. For these words are not a passing sound, they are keys that open a door that has been waiting for you for many years, a door you once believed you would never have the right to enter. You ask me, why is my life filled with so many trials? Why must I walk through valleys so deep, so long, that I feel forgotten? I declare that none of those nights were meaningless. Not a single step was wasted. Not one tear was unnecessary. Every experience you thought was failure. Every moment you were overlooked. Every delay that frustrated you, all of it has been measured, calibrated, permitted, and shaped by me as strokes of purpose, engraving what I am forming in you. I do not inflict pain to torment you, but I allow pressure to build in you something unshakable, the character fit for a great destiny. My child, remember Joseph, the one who was sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison, and forgotten by those he had helped. All those trials that seemed random and meaningless were in fact the very road that led him to the position where all of Egypt had to bow and acknowledge him. If Joseph had not learned faithfulness in the darkness of the dungeon, he would not have had the patience to govern an entire nation when the appointed time came. If he had not learned humility while being treated unjustly, he would not have had the compassion to save his brothers in the famine. What appeared to be sent to destroy him was actually what prepared him for his throne. So it is with you. The years you have spent in obscurity have not been a delay. They have been a holy preparation. I have used those years to strengthen your endurance, to enlarge your capacity, to cleanse you of habits, wounds, and distorted beliefs that cannot go with you into the new season. You thought you were merely trying to survive, but in reality, I have been training you to step into an inheritance you never dared to imagine. Because only those who have been shaped in the fire are strong enough to carry a weighty destiny. You have gone through battles more intense than many others, not because you are weaker, but because the enemy has seen in advance what I am preparing to give you. The enemy never attacks what has no value. If you have been hit hard, it is because you carry great worth. If confusion has been sown into your mind, it is because you are close to a breakthrough. If you have been pushed to the point of wanting to give up, it is because you have been standing right at the threshold of something sacred that hell does not want you to touch. The greatest battles often come right before the greatest transfers. When the night is at its darkest, that is not a sign the sun is far away. It is the sign that dawn is very near. You are not under attack to be destroyed. You are under attack because the kingdom of darkness knows you are about to receive something that belongs to you in the heavenly realm, something it cannot stop. So it tries instead to frighten you, into walking away from it yourself. But I declare to you, do not give up. Do not retreat. Do not refuse the inheritance upon which I have engraved your name. Look at what I have done in the dark seasons of your life. While others slept, I was writing your name in the scrolls of heaven. While others forgot their promises, I was remembering every beat of your heart. When you were exhausted, I soothed your soul with a peace you could not explain. When you were overlooked, I moved people out of your path so you would not be bound to the wrong relationships. When the enemy tried to destroy you with words, I turned those very words into a stepping stone to lift you higher. When one door closed, I quietly guided you toward another one wider, brighter, and more fitting for who you are. Now I declare to you, your season of hiding has come to an end. Not because you have screamed for it, but because you have matured. Not because you are lucky, but because you are ready. Not because you hit some random jackpot, but because destiny has reached the moment it must unfold. I am bringing you into a phase where the things I have woven in secret will be revealed. Opportunities you thought were dead will come back to life. Those who once failed to see your value will be left speechless in amazement. Doors you never knocked on will open on their own. Rooms of influence, places where your name was never mentioned before, will begin to call for you. I am issuing orders for angels to go ahead of you and prepare the way. I am leading you into places where your wisdom, your kindness, and your years of patience will become the keys that unlock every door. My child, I have not led you through all these disappointments just to repay you with a small victory. I have not allowed your heart to be wounded only to comfort you with a few temporary consolations. When I restore in such a way that heaven and earth both know that it is I who have done it. You will not merely be compensated, you will be lifted into a position you yourself never believed you could belong to. You will not only overcome, you will rule in the very places that once rejected you. Therefore, let go of the fear that you are unworthy. You are not chosen because you meet human standards. You are chosen because I have placed my heavenly seal upon you. No power can erase that seal. No accusation can blur it. No past can invalidate it. No door I open can be closed by anyone. If deep within your soul there is a quiet but strong confirmation rising, a sense that says, "This is real. This is for me," then know that this is my spirit bearing witness. And if you desire to respond, all you need to do is whisper, "Lord, I step into my portion. I hear, I see, and I will act." My beloved child, now I speak to you from another depth of heaven, from the place where space and time bow before my will, where every season is established and every promise is appointed. You have heard me call your name in the previous part, and today I spread before you the map of an entirely new phase, a phase of divine shifting. You think you are merely moving through an ordinary season of life, but in truth, you are standing at the intersection of heaven's lines and earth's lines, the place where the spiritual realm has already prepared an opening like nothing you have seen before. Throughout the journey you have just walked, you have lived through years I have used to mold, refine, and strengthen your soul. Those years were not wasted, they were foundation stones. And now I declare that this foundation is strong enough to bear the weight of what I am about to place upon you. Some people look at you today and think blessing will come because fortune is finally smiling on you. But they do not know the hidden battles you have endured. They do not know that before I raise someone up in public, I first train them in secret, just as I did with David anointed in the fields before he ever sat upon the throne. My child, what I am about to do in your life does not begin on the earth, it begins in the heavens. Every visible miracle is simply the outward expression of invisible movements that have long been at work in the spiritual realm. When you prayed in tears, heaven moved. When you chose to believe amid doubt, the records of heaven were marked. When you let go of resentment to take hold of peace, angels were commissioned. When you chose to stand firm instead of surrendering, an announcement went out in the unseen realm: this one is ready. You did not hear these things with your natural ears, but your soul has felt them. The recent restlessness, the nights you lay awake, not from anxiety, but because a strange new energy was stirring. That sense of an invisible anticipation hanging over you, all of it has been a sign that heaven has begun to open and a new wind is about to blow through your life. I do not want you to confuse this divine shift with the so-called few-second rituals the world advertises to capture weary souls. Those things, at best, only soothe for a moment the cravings of the flesh. They do not place the soul in the position I ordained. I do not give you breakthroughs through tricks. I give it through covenant. I do not move mountains because you click on a link. I move them because I have heard your prayers from within the furnace of testing. I do not open the windows of heaven because you follow some strange formula. I open them because you chose humility, perseverance, and faithfulness when no one else was watching. Do you remember Elijah and his servant? The servant saw only a sky of drought, but Elijah heard the sound of a mighty rain from afar before a single drop had fallen. In the same way, you are standing in an Elijah moment. Your eyes may not yet see any change, but your spirit has already heard a different sound, the sound of breakthrough, of favor, of a new river about to flow. I declare that in this hour you must not rely on what your eyes see. You must lean on what I speak, because your eyes only see the present state, but I see the final outcome. This shift has already begun in the spiritual realm, and soon it will touch your earthly life. Things that once appeared motionless will suddenly accelerate. Doors that closed for no clear reason will open without anyone knocking. Prayers you once whispered in hopelessness will return to you like waves, arriving one after another. I am bringing you into a new version of yourself, a place where you no longer live reactively to circumstances, but live from the authority you have been given. You once cried out for rest, and now I am giving it. You once longed for clarity, and now I am opening your eyes. You once asked me, "Am I worthy?" And I replied, "You were not chosen because of your worthiness, but because of my faithfulness. It is not that you did something to make me change my mind. It is that I never changed my mind. You are simply stepping into the season of what I spoke long ago. Look back at everything you have walked through, the wounds, the rejections, the failures, the internal battles, and you will see one truth: none of them destroyed you. And if they did not destroy you, then they served you. They have turned you into someone who can stand in the storm without needing someone to hold you up. My child, that is the evidence that you have reached the point of being mature enough to be entrusted with the next portion. Prepare yourself. The changes that are coming are not small. They will arrive in ways that leave you breathless in awe, not to make you look great, but to reveal my glory through your life. You will see me in every detail, in the unexpected invitation, in the surprising meeting, in the door that opens at the right moment, in the deep, inward confirmation. And I declare, do not fear the goodness that is coming. Do not shrink back because you think you are unworthy. Do not lower yourself when I am lifting you up. Simply say in your heart, "Lord, I step into this shift with faith, and I will answer that faith with things you have never seen." My beloved child, I want you to understand that when a spiritual shift occurs, It does not only manifest through external events, a new job, a new stream of provision, an unexpected opportunity, but first, it reveals itself through subtle changes inside your soul, the way you think, the way you see yourself, the way you respond to circumstances, the way you use your time, and even the way you face old fears. I am touching deep layers you once believed were just your personality, things you assumed were permanent. So you may realize that much of what you carried was not your unchangeable nature, but dust that gathered over years of having to protect yourself. In this shift, I am not only changing the place where you stand, I am changing the eyes through which you see life. You once looked at tomorrow through suspicion, always bracing yourself for the worst to avoid disappointment. Now, I will teach you to look at tomorrow with trust, not blind optimism, but trust grounded in the history of my faithfulness, proven by the fact that I never abandoned you in your darkest chapters. You once saw yourself as someone allowed to stand at the edge working, serving, sacrificing, yet rarely daring to believe you could be the chosen one. I am correcting that identity, reminding you that you do not stand outside the kingdom hoping for crumbs. You are in the house. You belong at the table, and you have a rightful place in the feast. You once saw money as something both desperately needed and dangerously threatening, something that kept you anxious when you lacked it, and fearful of being changed by it if you ever had more. I am teaching you to see money as a tool, not an idol, not an enemy, but an instrument I can place in the hands of someone who knows their worth does not depend on what they possess. In this shift, you will begin to notice small but unmistakably real changes. Things that once triggered panic will no longer shake you as before. Words that once crushed you will lose their power. Old patterns may still appear, but your internal response will be different. That is because I am changing the internal reference system within you. In the past, you measured your worth by the eyes of others, by their praise or criticism, by numbers in your account, by milestones you compared with those around you. Now, I am pulling you toward a different reference point. I want you to begin asking, what does God think of me? What is He doing in this situation? What is He inviting me to learn? Rather than only asking, why is this happening? When will it end? When the reference point shifts, the same circumstances will carry new meaning. What once felt like a blow will now feel like an invitation. What once looked like rejection will now signal transition. Like Israel standing at the Red Sea, they thought it was their death. But in my design, it was the birth canal of a free nation. You have often seen your own Red Seas as the end, but I see them as pathways no one has walked before, where I will part the waters beneath your feet as you obey my voice. I am also coming close to your relationships, habits, and rhythms of life. A spiritual shift cannot remain only in church or devotional time. It must flow into how you work, how you rest, whom you keep, and whom you release. There are friends I will preserve for you, those who lift your arms when you grow weary, who remind you of who you are in me when the world forgets, who honor your calling instead of using it. But there are also connections I will gently close, not because they are entirely bad, but because you have outgrown the season they belong to. Keeping them would require you to shrink yourself to fit old molds. You once called these endings abandonment, betrayal, or being ignored. But I declare many times it was I who closed the door, so you would not return to places I already delivered you from. I do not take away anything good. I only remove what would pull you out of the orbit I designed for you. I will give you wisdom to know when to persevere and when to release, whom to love from afar, and whom to walk closely with when tenderness is needed, and when people-pleasing would make you lose yourself. This too is part of your spiritual inheritance, the ability to say yes to what is mine and no to what only looks good. As for finances, I know how sensitive your heart is. You have lived through years of lack, and so there is a deep, unnamed fear inside you, fear of not having enough, fear of losing what you have, fear that one unexpected problem will wipe everything away. I am not asking you to suddenly become someone who feels no worry at all. I am inviting you to take one small step, then another, in learning that I care not only for your soul, but also for your rent, your electricity, your meals, your tuition, your medicine, all the ordinary things you often think are too small to bring before God. Nothing is too small for me if it weighs upon your heart. I want you to learn to bring even those details into your relationship with me. When you begin praying about how to use your finances, how to pay your debts, and how to plan for the long term, I will not give you a vague sense of peace. I will give you ideas, strategies, specific steps, heightened discernment toward risky choices, and the courage to say no to paths of quick profit that would cost you your integrity. I may not pour down from heaven a large sum of money in the way you once imagined, but I will open doors of work, collaboration, and creativity so that you may step into a level of stability and abundance while keeping your soul intact. My child, a crucial part of this shift is that I am teaching you to move from a mindset of just enough to survive to a mindset of being entrusted to steward. When you live with a just enough mentality, you unconsciously shrink your dreams, shrink your vision, and shrink the way you trust me. But I did not create you to dwell forever in the shallow waters of barely getting by. I desire to bring you into the deeper waters of enough to live, enough to give, enough to build, enough to sow. This does not mean everyone will become wealthy by the world's definition, but it does mean your life will no longer be shaped by constant lack. I will teach you the principle of sowing and reaping, not as a mechanical formula, but as the rhythm of a heart led by me. When you learn to give, according to my prompting, you will experience that I never allow you to lose. What you think you have given away will become seed for the harvest to come. And that harvest is not only financial, but also doors, relationships, opportunities, and peace that money cannot buy. All of this may sound large and overwhelming, but I am not asking you to understand everything at once. I am asking you to know this: the shift does not happen through a sudden, magical turn. It happens through each small step you take with me. One thought transformed, one habit adjusted, one decision made differently than before, one trembling yet honest yes. Each step is like a brick laid on the path toward the inheritance I am opening before you. You are not walking it alone. I go before you, beside you, and behind you to guard you. You need only to keep walking, keep listening, and keep allowing my spirit to touch the places you once believed could never change. And one day, when you look back, you will realize you have gone far beyond what you imagined, not by your strength, but by my grace quietly carrying every step. My beloved child, now I desire to lead your soul into an even deeper layer of revelation, a place many never reach, not because they lack faith, but because they stop too early, right at the doorway of complete transformation. You are standing at that doorway, and I want you to step through, for the calling upon your life is far greater than anything you have envisioned. To enter, you must understand that a divine shift is not only about me giving you something new, it is also about dissolving the old structures within your mind. A new house cannot be built on a decayed foundation. Thus, I am using the recent tremors, the uneasiness, the uncertainty, the tension between the old and the new as it knocks upon your inner foundation, to reveal which parts must be replaced. Not every instability is an attack. Sometimes it is a signal that you have outgrown the old garment. When Joseph was stripped of his coat of many colors, he saw it as a loss, but it was the first step toward receiving the robe of authority that awaited him. So it is with you. What you consider loss is often only the old garment being removed so that I may clothe you with something new, broader, and more fitting to your destiny. In this season, I am also separating you from the loudness of fear so that you can hear the whisper of my spirit more clearly than ever. You lived many years in survival mode, and your mind became conditioned to assume the worst whenever change appeared. But my child, you are no longer in the old season. The signs you once interpreted as warnings must now be read through new spiritual eyes. When familiar sources of provision close, you used to think, I'm about to be in lack. But I tell you, this is how I gently pull you away from temporary harbors to lead you into a stronger source. When a relationship suddenly grows cold, you think you are being abandoned. But I know your heart needs protection from ties no longer aligned with where I am taking you. When a door you hoped for does not open, you think you are being rejected. But I tell you, I locked that door because there is a cliff behind it you cannot see. These signs are not endings, they are turns. And turns always come with a slight jolt, not to scare you, but to awaken you. You no longer need to chase the old thing. The new thing is already running toward you. And one of the most subtle yet powerful parts of this shift lies in how I am expanding your soul to prepare you for provision in a new form. You once thought finances came last, as a reward. But in my kingdom, finances are often part of the transformation process, not the final prize. Before I entrust you with a season of abundance, I transform the very nature of your relationship with money. You cannot steward what you fear. You cannot keep what you believe you do not deserve. The fear of loss makes you hold too tightly. Doubt makes you reject the doors I open, and shame convinces you that you deserve only this much. I am breaking all three chains in you. You are about to realize something important. I am not merely giving you more. I am enlarging the capacity of your soul so that it can contain what I give. A small vessel, even if clean and beautiful, can only hold a small amount. But when the vessel is expanded, it becomes a container of blessing not only for itself, but for others. I am enlarging your capacity through three things: wisdom, discipline, and holy confidence. Wisdom to discern what is a true opportunity and what is only an illusion. Discipline to follow what I speak, without being pulled away by emotion. And holy confidence, so you do not step into your new season with the mindset of a beggar, but of one who has been entrusted. When you carry that posture, financial doors will open in a natural way, without striving, without proving, without pleasing, because you enter them as someone summoned, not someone lucky enough to be trying their chance. My beloved child, I know that in your heart there are still tremors. Is the new season really coming? Am I capable enough? What if I make mistakes? What if I cannot hold the blessing? I do not blame you for these questions. They come from years of having to fight on your own. But I give you this truth to replace them. I am going with you. When I go with you, you cannot be lost. When I go with you, you cannot lack. When I go with you, no destiny belonging to someone else can overtake what I have ordained for you. When I go with you, you cannot lose what I place into your hands. And now, I want you to do something simple yet powerful. Lift your eyes away from fear, away from old memories, away from the voices that criticized you, away from comparisons that exhausted you, and look at me. I do not change. I do not fail. I do not abandon. I do not arrive late. I am not unjust. I am not cruel. I do not use blessings to toy with anyone. I do not lift you only to drop you. I do not bring you to the door only to lock it. I am renewing your vision of who I am. When your view of me is right, everything else will realign. When you believe I am truly good, you will stop fearing loss. When you believe I am truly faithful, you will stop fearing delay. When you believe I truly love you, you will stop questioning your worth. Now, I have placed before you a door, and no one can shut it. The new thing is no longer far away. It is at the threshold. It is brushing against your breath. It is preparing to break into reality. My beloved child, I am not bringing you out of years of struggle merely so you may breathe easier. I am not lifting you out of financial pressure merely so you may worry less. I am positioning you for a new role, the role of one who is sent, one who stands at the crossroads between heaven and earth to receive and distribute what I desire to pour out for a generation. You are not only a receiver of blessing, you are a carrier of blessing. You are not merely a survivor, you are designed to become living evidence that my grace can lift a soul from being overlooked into carrying influence. All this time, you believed the center of the story was your pain, your lack, your struggle to hold on to faith. But I tell you, everything you have walked through, bitter or sweet, has been part of a testimony being written, not just for you, but for those who never dared to believe they could be rescued, changed, restored. I allowed you to walk through seasons that seemed like dead ends, so that one day, when I open the way, your story will not be dry doctrine, but the voice of a heart that truly walked through the valley and knows what it feels like to be lifted by my hand. I am turning the chapters you once wished to erase into the most important parts of the book I am writing about my faithfulness. When you tell your story, no one will dare say it is theory, because the scars in your soul will become marks of healing, not evidence of defeat. I am not bringing you into spacious places so you can build a comfortable wall around yourself and forget that the world is groaning. I want you to understand from the beginning that the blessings I prepare are not meant to close you in, but to open you up. I am not asking you to sacrifice blindly or abandon every healthy need as if you were an unnamed servant. I am teaching you that once you are healed and provided for, you will have overflow, not depletion, to pour into others. I want you to step into a new level of freedom, freedom from the fear of will I have enough today, so you can focus instead on the bigger question: how can I use what you've placed in my hands to lift someone else? When you stand in that position, money, time, talent, relationships, all of it will shift from things you cling to out of fear to things I use to touch lives you have never met. The years you spent budgeting tightly, measuring every expense, learning to value each coin, those years were not only to teach you the worth of labor, but so that one day, when I place more in your hands, you will not waste it. Those who have never known lack rarely understand the pain of those who lose everything, but you have been there. That makes your heart tender toward those carrying the same weight you once carried. And that tenderness is a crucial part of the calling I am placing on you, whether you ever stand on a stage or not. Whether you carry a title or not, every time you care for someone weak, every time you quietly help a struggling family, every time you use your words to lift a collapsing soul, you are functioning in that calling. The provision I pour into your life will ripple outward. You will become a river, not a stagnant pond. I know there were moments when you asked, "What is special about me? I'm just an ordinary person with cracks and weaknesses." But my child, it is precisely your ordinariness that makes my grace shine. I do not choose perfect vessels by the world's standards. I choose vessels that are cracked, worn, and once thought useless, so that when glory pours out of them, no one can mistake where it came from. As Paul wrote, "We have this treasure in jars of clay, so that the surpassing greatness of the power may be shown to be of God, not of us." You are one of those clay jars, ordinary, fragile, yet placed in my hands. The only thing that makes the difference is not the material of the jar, but the one who fills it. In these past years, you have grown accustomed to praying like someone standing at the margins, always beginning with, "I'm not sure if I'm worthy," or, "If you have time." You have spoken of your dreams in a hesitant tone, as if they were luxuries you had no right to touch. I do not blame you, for this is the residue of the wounds you have carried. But now, I am gently changing the words in your mouth. I am teaching you to pray as someone who knows they stand inside the Father's house, not outside its gate. To speak the desires I placed in your heart with calmness, neither demanding nor chasing, but also not diminishing your worth. When you learn to say, "Father, if it is your will, use me. Provide what is necessary for what you have called me to do," you are shifting from vague pleading to partnership with my design, and I delight to answer such prayers, because they are not tinted with personal ambition, but soaked in the desire to be aligned with the heavenly will. Do not think that in order to be used, you must become someone else. I do not want you to mimic the style of anyone, nor do I require you to squeeze yourself into a mold to become more worthy. I crafted you uniquely, your way of feeling, thinking, speaking, your personal history, and even your wounds. All of these I will repurpose. The parts of your story you once considered terrible are often the pieces I use most, because there you learned humility, compassion, and the truth that without me you could not stand. My child, I do not demand perfection. I look for willingness, and you have been willing more times than you realize. I invite you to place your hand upon your chest, right where your heart beats, and allow yourself to believe something new, that your life does not end at being able to take care of yourself, but will go further into becoming a source of blessing for others. I will teach you to steward both resources and time, both your words and your influence. I will teach you to discern between doors that are glamorous but hollow, and doors that appear simple yet carry eternal significance. I will teach you to use what I give, not to build a kingdom of your own, but to expand the kingdom that cannot be shaken. Do not fear the magnitude of what I am unfolding. You do not carry it alone. I never place a mantle on your shoulders and then step back to watch from afar. I go with you. I dwell within you. I am the force behind you and the arm that goes before you. You only need to continue saying yes to each small step I set before you, and I will lead you to places you never could have imagined, even in your darkest hours. The days ahead will not be merely better than before, they will be meaningful. You will wake not merely to survive, but to live with purpose. And that, my child, is the true inheritance I long to give, a life full, meaningful, saturated with grace, where everything, even finances, becomes an instrument in the symphony I am composing over your life. My beloved child, before I place a new mantle upon your shoulders, I must untie the hidden knots, the ones you believed were simply who you are, when in reality they were the marks of wounds your young soul carried alone. No fear in you was ever innate. It was shaped by painful words, by circumstances that forced you to grow too quickly, by days you had to fight without anyone to lift you. Now my light is shining upon each dark corner, and you will see them melt away like morning mist under the rising sun. You have lived too long beneath the level of who you truly are, not because you were weak, but because the blows came too early, making your soul believe it had to prepare for the worst at all times. It makes you overly cautious, overly guarded, sometimes shrinking yourself just to protect the remaining unbroken parts of your heart. I do not condemn you, that was how you survived. But my child, you are no longer in the season of surviving. You are stepping into the season of being sent, being expanded, being prepared to steward resources, vision, and influence that I am placing upon your life. The old posture cannot carry the new calling, and so I am reshaping you from within like the eagle that must break its old beak, pluck out its worn feathers, and retreat into solitude to renew its strength before rising higher than ever. My child, you are not weakening, you are being renewed. In this renewal, I am breaking the false beliefs you mistook as your identity. You once carried the thought that you were unworthy of great blessing, that if something good came, something bad must follow, that happiness was too fragile to trust. But these are only the echoes of the years you lived under deprivation, not the truth I speak over you. I have called you chosen, beloved, sealed, and your worth is never measured by failures or the opinions of others. You belong to me, and because you are mine, you are worthy of everything I have prepared for you. I am also lifting from you the burden of feeling that you must handle everything on your own. You have lived far too long with the sense that if you loosen your grip, even for a moment, everything will collapse, a feeling that has made you both strong and lonely at the same time. But now, I am teaching you that you do not have to become your own savior. I want you to learn to rest in my faithfulness, to breathe freely knowing that not everything stands upon your shoulders. I have sent the right people, the right resources, the right opportunities to uphold you in ways that are not always visible, yet always precise. For I never allow you to fight alone. Then there is that quiet fear, the one that makes you uneasy when life becomes peaceful. Each time you feel secure, you start worrying that something bad is about to happen. My child, I want to reach deeply into that place and heal it. Because happiness is not bait intended to hurt you, it is part of your inheritance. Peace is not a reward for the flawless, it is the breath I intend for you to live on daily. Joy is not something you are allowed to have only after everything is accomplished. It is the stream I desire to let flow continually through your soul. I tell you this, I am not only opening external doors, I am opening doors inside your mind and emotions. One open door within the soul will draw many open doors in the natural realm. One shift in belief will activate powerful movements in the spiritual. And when you begin to trust that you are truly protected, truly loved, truly destined for good, you will see everything in your life begin to move with more ease, more clarity, more aliveness, as though the world itself has begun to turn in rhythm with your steps. My beloved child, every step you are taking is moving toward a real, ordered, meaningful direction, not just through empty, repetitive days. You have lived so long in a posture of just get through today. Just let nothing worse happen. Just have enough to survive. And I have seen the nights you collapsed in exhaustion from merely holding everything together. I do not fault you, for those very experiences shaped the compassion in your heart. But I have come to tell you that I did not design you merely to exist in survival mode. I call you into a life with depth, breadth, and height, a life in which even you will be astonished at how I take someone who once thought themselves on the margins and make them a bearer of a light that even darkness must acknowledge. I want you to begin to see your life not as a string of disconnected events, but as a story being written by the hand of an eternal author, a story whose chapters are sometimes fierce, sometimes quiet, sometimes radiant, sometimes dim. Yet no chapter ever falls outside the purpose of its ending. The years you were overlooked were not meaningless. They were the prologue that would highlight my intervention later. The days you counted coins and stretched every resource taught you to honor even the smallest provision, so that one day, when I place greater resources in your hands, your heart will remain pure. The doors that shut, the opportunities that vanished, the rejections that felt final, each was a gentle redirection away from paths that would have diverted you from your destiny. You think you have lost much, but I see how much you have been spared from things that could have stolen not just your earthly future, but your spiritual one. I do not romanticize your pain, but I declare that not a single fragment of it is wasted. Each piece is being rewoven, restored, and repositioned so that, at the appointed time, when you look back, you will realize that the place where hope once died has become the fertile ground from which an unimaginable harvest is rising. Now, I want your soul to begin looking forward with holy expectation, not the fragile hope based on luck, but the anticipation of someone who knows they have a covenant, a promise, and an inheritance with their name written upon it. That inheritance is not first about numbers, accounts, houses, or land, though I may grant those things in due measure. Your inheritance is, before all else, the ability to walk through a generation in chaos and yet remain in peace, to face lack without letting your soul drown, to speak words of life in a world that spreads fear and doubt, to carry into every room a different atmosphere. I have ordained that when you enter a place, the air will shift, not because you are applauded, but because my spirit is with you, and those drowning in despair will feel a peace they cannot explain. When I say I am expanding your influence, I do not only speak of numbers who follow you, I speak of the depth of the souls who are touched, perhaps few, but each one sent by me to drink from the water I have caused to rise within you through many seasons of refinement. But I will not deny that part of your inheritance will appear through very tangible signs, debts being resolved, financial burdens being lifted, opportunities for work, collaboration, creativity doors you never had access to before. I do not want you to pretend you have no needs. I do not want you to use spirituality to cover real concerns. I know your bills, your deadlines, your responsibilities, your obligations, and I care for all of them. What I want to transform first is not the circumstance, but the frequency of your heart within the circumstance, to replace the whisper, "Nothing good ever happens for me," with the prayer, "Lord, show me what you are doing here," to replace "I always lack" with the declaration, "Father, you are my provider. Teach me to walk wisely in step with your provision." When the frequency of your heart shifts, you will be astonished as external doors begin to move. Ideas that seemed insignificant will become pathways. Conversations you thought were casual will become connections. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable will lower into your grasp, not because the world suddenly favors you, but because I am adjusting the environment around you to recognize and cooperate with what I have spoken over your destiny. I do not place resources in your hands to replace me, but to reveal me. I do not open new streams so that you become too busy to hear me, but so that you will see more clearly that I am the one who can use any channel, any place, any method beyond logic, beyond systems to provide for the one who entrusts both soul and life to me. I will open opportunities but also give discernment. So you do not chase every door simply because it promises wealth. I will place within you a peace that is calm yet sharp, helping you recognize what is from me and what is coated bait. This too is a blessing when you are no longer dazzled by quick-rise promises, because you have learned the steady rhythm of grace, when you are no longer swept into greed, because you know your worth does not lie in what you own, but in the one whose name is written upon your life. And as you gradually step into this new phase, I will continuously remind you that what I give you does not end with just enough for your household. I see the people who will be touched through you. I will send to you situations in which the story of your life becomes a key. Those who are collapsing under the same pressures you once endured will find in you a confirmation that they are not foolish for still believing in the midst of the storm. Those who think rejection is the end will see in you a living testimony that I can take a soul from the world nearly discarded and establish it as one who lifts others up. That is why I do not erase your scars but turn them into testimony. I do not remove the memory of your hungry days but use it to weave into your words a weightiness that mere theory can never carry. Therefore, I invite you to begin living each day with the awareness that you are being prepared for a greater stature. Let your words, your thoughts, your choices, your time, and the way you treat others all reflect this truth. You are no longer someone running from the past. You are one moving toward the future I have promised. And every small step of obedience you take echoes in eternity. Do not shrink yourself just to make others comfortable. Do not withdraw merely for fear of being misunderstood. Do not reject the dreams I placed within you simply because they intimidate you. I am in those dreams. I stand in the midst of those longings. And I am the one who will carry you into them, not you dragging yourself there. You do not need to know every detail of what will happen. You only need, once a day, to say to me with honesty, Lord, today I choose again to walk with you. I give you my plans, my fears, my limits, and my abilities. Use me according to your good will. Just that each day will open for you doors beyond anything you ever imagined. And one day, when you stand in a place of fullness both in spirit and in practical life, you will know that it was not you who climbed up, but I who carried you on my shoulders the entire way. My beloved child, the season you are about to enter is not merely a natural continuation of life. It is a transitional season that requires spiritual discernment. A turning point that you could walk past without realizing it is the very moment I appointed to meet you. You think you are only experiencing erratic days, but in truth you are standing inside a time gap, a place where I am funneling heavenly breath toward you. The repeated coincidences, the strange thoughts suddenly stirring your heart, the casual words that strike you deeply, the dreams you thought insignificant, all are signals I am sending to awaken you, my child. You are standing at the threshold of a new season. Do not let your old mindset suffocate what I am breathing into your life. There are seasons when I come in thunder, but there are also seasons when I come in silence so deep that only a still soul can perceive me. This is the second kind, a quiet yet powerful season, gentle yet full of authority. Like the moment Elijah stood on Mount Horeb and expected me in the wind, the earthquake, and the fire. Yet I came to him in the gentle whisper, and you as well. If you look for me only in dramatic moments, you will miss the soft breath touching your soul each night. I am not coming to create noise. I am coming to redirect you. In recent days, certain things in your heart no longer fit. Even the things that once brought you joy now feel strangely dull. Relationships that used to feel close now drift without reason. Habits that once comforted you no longer provide safety. You think you are losing motivation. But my child, this is the sign that you are shedding old skin. An eagle preparing to rise to a higher altitude becomes uncomfortable in its old feathers and retreats into solitude to be renewed. You are in that process. Your mind no longer fits old patterns. Your soul no longer fits old horizons. And your heart refuses the limitations that once restrained you. You are not slowing down. You are being freed from what no longer belongs to your new identity. Remember, not every silence is delayed. Sometimes silence is the atmosphere I create, so your soul has space to expand. When I prepare to entrust you with something greater, I often lead you into a period of stillness so the deeper layers within you can be realigned. If you keep running, you will not hear my direction. If you keep engaging with too much noise, my voice will drown. If you keep scattering your attention, your spiritual sensitivity will dull. Thus, in this season, what you need is not to do more, but to listen more carefully. Do not fear when you feel yourself detaching from certain old things. Do not be alarmed when doors close, though you hoped they would open. Do not be surprised when you become restless with the things you once tolerated. This is not weakness. This is because the heavens over your life are changing. And when the heavens shift, everything in nature must shift with it. You cannot carry the spirit of winter into the climate of spring. When I breathe something new into you, the old that once fit will naturally fall away. And it is not only your circumstances that are changing, you are changing. You are beginning to think more deeply, to hear more clearly, to discern more keenly. The things that once sent you into panic no longer overthrow you. The criticisms that once wounded you no longer hold power over you. The fears that once made your heart tremble have lost their edge. You think you are simply coping better, but in truth you are stepping into a level of spiritual maturity even you have not recognized. I have placed within you a quiet yet fierce peace, a holy confidence without noise, a strength like deep waters, silent, but impossible to stop. The shifting of seasons does not begin on the outside, it begins within you. When the frequency of your heart changes, everything else will shift accordingly. When you believe that I am leading you into a new season, the layers of power in the heavenly realm will begin to move around you in alignment with what you believe. When you speak words of trust instead of fear, a chain of movements takes place that your natural eyes cannot see. When you release what no longer belongs, you create room for what is right to enter. I am teaching you how to cooperate with me through the posture of your heart, not through striving in vain. What stands before you is not a small step, but a destiny-defining turn. Not everyone reaches such a turn, and not everyone who reaches it dares to step through. But I trust you, for I know you are more mature than you think, stronger than you realize, and deeper than the world has ever perceived. Stand firm, my beloved. Your next step will not only transform your own life, but will transform the lives of those I am preparing to send to drink from the stream you will carry. My beloved child, I want to sketch clearly for you the structure of what I am about to unfold, so you will not imagine that everything arrives randomly and passes like a wave. But understand that I am the God of order, of blueprint, of arrangements so precise that no detail is left ungoverned. What I bring to you in this season is not a sudden burst that flashes and disappears, but a process with foundation, pillars, roof, and doors. And when you understand this, you will no longer be confused when events do not arrive all at once, but come in layers, stages, and phases. Like a house being built, section by section, the foundation is what I have done and am still doing within you through the previous seasons, healing deep misconceptions, restoring shattered trust, reshaping the way you see yourself, and cutting off the connections that kept you living in survival mode. Now that this foundation is becoming firm, I am beginning to raise the walls, new patterns of thinking, healthy boundaries, new ways you use time, money, and emotion under an entirely different order. I want you to understand that every time you learn to say no to something that is not from me, you lay another brick. Every time you choose to follow peace instead of urgency, you raise another wall. Every time you bring a hidden fear before me and allow me to touch it, you drive another nail into the frame of the house I am preparing as your dwelling. After these walls are set, I begin to place the roof. That roof is the new covering. You will soon feel more clearly than ever before. A kind of protection you have not fully experienced until now. You will enter situations that would normally crush you. Yet this time you will remain standing. Not because there is no wind, but because the covering is in place. The criticisms that once pierced you will pass without sinking in. Not because people have become gentler, but because my shadow rests over you. Unexpected disruptions will still arise, but you will experience an inner stillness you could never manufacture by willpower. For it is the fruit of dwelling under my wings. When this covering begins to operate, you will realize that you are no longer easily drawn into the noisy promises of this world, the loud advertisements of shortcut paths to wealth, the glittering ideas of instant success that prey upon human fear of lack. For once you learn what it is to be cared for by me, you will no longer rush into anything driven by fear. I will teach you to discern which opportunities truly come from me and which are only shadows painted with glossy words. And that discernment itself is part of your blessing, for it protects you from roads that appear bright but end in exhaustion. Then comes the moment when I begin to open doors not only for you to step through, but also for others to enter your life. These open doors are not merely a new job, an additional income stream, or a favorable connection. Though I may use all of these, the true open doors are spaces where your new identity has room to express itself. Circumstances I have orchestrated for your story to become a key for others. Positions where you no longer have to shrink to fit the world's expectations, but can stand upright with the posture of one backed by the Father of Heaven. When you reach such crossroads, you will sense a profound alignment. You will not need to force yourself to become someone else, nor wear the mask of being strong or successful by worldly standards. Yet you will still find your place. You will not need to sacrifice peace in exchange for acceptance. For I will bring you to places where your peace and authenticity become the very reason you are welcomed. My child, that is when the structure of blessing becomes visible. The foundation is inner transformation. The walls are new patterns and boundaries. The roof is my covering, and the doors are the opportunities opened in heavenly timing, not in the hurried schedule of this world. Through all this, I do not neglect the very real aspects of your life, your financial needs, family responsibilities, work, and direction. But I want you to know that I do not come merely to clear your debts and withdraw, but to teach you a new rhythm where finances are no longer a whip striking your back each morning, but an area you manage with peace and guidance. I will give you ideas you never had before. I will show you ways to steward what you have more effectively. I will expose the leaks that drain your resources. I will send the right people with wisdom at the right moment. I will show you doors of labor and creativity that you can walk through, slowly transitioning you out of barely getting by into stability and eventual abundance. I do not promise that you will wake up one morning and see everything magically solved, but I assure you that if you walk with me through each small decision, how you spend, how you repay, how you set priorities, how you dare to say enough to meaningless pursuits, you will see a steady upward curve. Not through a sudden explosion, but through consistent growth, and that stability will become the very foundation upon which, at the right time, I can place greater resources into your hands without them slipping through your fingers, because your spirit, your soul, and your mind will be strong enough to steward them. All of this may sound great and weighty, but I am not asking you to understand everything at once. I only desire that you recognize that I am not working in fragments, that every stirring, every adjustment, every gentle tug on your conscience, every invitation to step out of your comfort zone is part of the blueprint I am unfolding over your life. If today you can do only one thing, simply sit still in my presence. Place your hand over your heart and whisper, Lord, I agree with your process. I do not want to live the old way anymore. Build in me the new person who is worthy of what you are preparing to give. Then that alone is enough to move the heavens. The rest, I will patiently walk with you, my beloved child. When I open a new season for you, you do not enter it as someone empty-handed, but as one who carries an invisible inheritance accumulated through the many years I have been quietly working in your heart. There are times you think you move too slowly, that others have gone further, that you are late, inexperienced, under-resourced, unsupported. But I speak to you, you are not late. You are simply walking at the rhythm of heaven, not the rhythm of the world. Some move fast but move crooked. Some move early but move wrong. Some move strong but cannot stand. I do not want you in any of those groups. I prepare you in such a way that when you stand in the place I have appointed, you will stand firmly, peacefully, and enduring, not as a spark that flares and dies, but as a flame that keeps burning. My child, the invisible inheritance you carry is greater than you imagine. It includes your perseverance through nights when no one was watching, your kindness in harsh conditions, every tear you offered me in prayer, the way you refused to let your heart turn to stone despite its many wounds. These small things are pure gold in the spiritual treasury I have stored for you. When I open doors, that inheritance will become the platform that allows you to step naturally into the new without being overwhelmed or diminished. You will be surprised at why you no longer tremble before challenges that once made you retreat. Why you can make wise decisions in situations that would send others into panic. Why you can hear me more clearly than before. It is because you have been prepared, little by little, in silence, in hardship, in seasons where you thought I said nothing. But I was never silent. I was working deeply. In this new season, what I desire to give you is not merely external expansion, but a stabilized identity. You will no longer feel the need to prove your worth through achievements or the approval of others. You will stand in the truth that your worth comes from me. And when your heart is rooted in that truth, you will walk with a freedom you have never known. You will not fear failure, for failure does not define you. You will not fear loss, for I am the one who restores. You will not fear abandonment, for I do not leave. You will not fear lack, for I am your source. I want you to enter this season with the posture of someone backed by heaven, not someone hoping for luck. When you stand with that posture, blessings will not uproot you. Adversity will not shatter you. Praise will not make you arrogant, and criticism will not make you waver. I will begin bringing into your life new people, those who share your frequency, your spirit, your values. This is crucial, for I never allow a soul to step into a harvest season with companions meant only for the sowing season. Some old relationships will fade on their own. You will not need to force anything, justify anything, or chase anything. They will drift away like autumn leaves in the wind. For their purpose in your story is complete. But I will also send to you those who can see the potential within you, not because you strive to prove yourself, but because I place that perception in their eyes. They will lift you through timely words, invisible support, and collaborations only I could orchestrate. And you will realize that while you can go a certain distance alone, with the ones I send, you will go farther, deeper, and wider. This is how I expand your influence, not through noise, but through meaningful connection. Child, in this season of transition, peace will be the measure. When something comes from me, it carries peace, even if you must be brave, even if you must step beyond what is familiar, even if change stretches you. There will remain within your deepest being a stillness that cannot be shaken. Whatever stirs confusion, disturbs your sleep, or pulls your mind into the spiral of fear, lay it at my feet. For I do not lead you through chaos. I lead you by light. You do not need to race, you simply need to follow peace. My beloved child, I want you to walk with the posture of one who knows they are entering a season of abundance, not as a beggar, but as an heir. You do not plead for what I have already appointed for you. You do not fight for what I have already inscribed with your name. You do not need to persuade me to give what I prepared for you before the foundations of the world. Your part is to walk in rhythm, to keep your heart soft, and to let me lead. When you do that, you will see the doors open in a beautiful sequence, not one step missing, not one step excessive, not late, not misaligned. All things will align like interlocking links, like streams converging into a single flow, like light unfurling over a path I have already cleared ahead of you. I want to speak to you about the stage your heart has long awaited, though it has also quietly feared the stage where what I have spoken begins to take form, where blessing is no longer only a whispered promise in your tears, but becomes a tangible sign woven into your daily life. The stage where you begin to look around and realize that what you once only dared to pray for in secret is gently becoming reality. I know there were moments when you asked, if the Lord truly opens things one day, will I endure it? Will I be able to keep it? Will I get swept up in it and lose sight of Him? And those questions reveal that your heart has been prepared more deeply than you realize. The one who chases blessing without ever considering the keeping of their heart is the one who is easily led astray. But you, even in your fear of losing direction, have shown that your true concern is not poverty, but the loss of my presence. This is why I trust you with a season of manifestation, because I know you will not use blessings to build monuments to yourself, but as a talent to steward for the purpose I placed within you. When blessing begins to unfold, it rarely arrives as a sudden lightning strike that transforms your entire life in an instant. More often it comes like dawn, gentle, gradual, quiet. At first, only a thin line of light appears at the horizon, and if one glances too quickly, they may think nothing has changed. Then, slowly, the night begins to recede. The shapes once hidden by darkness gain clarity. Color returns to a world that seemed only gray and black. And only when the sun has risen does one realize that a new day had begun long before they noticed. So too will my blessing unfold in your life. It may begin with a debt resolved more easily than expected, a contract you did not anticipate being chosen for, in a job opportunity you thought you were underqualified for, but whose interviewer perceives what I placed in you. or a small opening that answers precisely the gap that has troubled you for so long. I may begin through things that seem ordinary, like your health stabilizing after a long season of fatigue, your sleep becoming peaceful again, your mind quieting, the atmosphere of your home softening. None of these make headlines. But in the realm of heaven, they are the first stones of the abundance I am constructing for you. I want you to learn to recognize my blessing not only in numbers or events, but in the shift of your soul's breathing rhythm. When you walk into a store, calculate your expenses, and realize you no longer panic the way you used to, even though your finances may not yet be perfect, that is a blessing. When a deadline approaches, and instead of letting fear squeeze your chest, you sit down calmly to consider and pray, and somehow the solution appears, that is a blessing. When you look back at the pages of old journals and realize that the one who wrote them is still you, yet you now carry more depth, more peace, more clarity, that is a blessing. I am changing not only what is in your hands, but the way you hold it, not only what you walk through, but how you walk, not only where you go, but the way you carry your presence in each place. And when the inner substance changes, the outer form must eventually align. Prepare your heart to witness very concrete things unfold. There will be sums of money coming from sources you never expected, a refund, a new opportunity, an invitation to collaborate, a door long closed reopening with better terms than before. There will be people whose hearts I have been quietly stirring to remember your name in meetings you know nothing about. There will be helping hands extended at the exact moment you need them. Messages, calls, recommendations that pave a path through places you thought were dead ends. I am not saying everything will be without waves, but I promise you will clearly see the difference between fighting in your own strength and walking within a current of grace prepared beforehand. You will realize you do not need manipulation, flattery, or silent compromise of your values to secure a place. Instead, you will see that the doors aligned with your true identity open on their own, sometimes unexpectedly. Always with the unmistakable sign, your spirit will recognize peace. My beloved child, it is precisely at the moment when blessing begins to reveal itself that I invite you to guard your heart more carefully than ever, not in fear, but in loving attentiveness. When you have grown accustomed to living with lack, your mind easily clings to anything good, as though it could slip away at any moment. You may find yourself thinking more about holding on to what you have just received than living deeply with what I have given. I do not want you to exchange the yoke of scarcity for the yoke of possession. I want to take you from the place where money weighed heavily on you to the place where you know how to use it as a faithful servant, rather than allowing it to become your master again in a different form. Therefore, when you begin to have more money, more opportunities, more connections, I will whisper to you with questions meant only for you and me to answer together. What portion do I want you to keep? What portion do I want you to sow? What am I building through? What I place in your hands is any part of your heart beginning to cling to the blessing instead of clinging to the one who gives it. These questions are not meant to make you feel guilty, but to preserve your freedom, to remind you always that you can possess blessing, but blessing must not possess you. You may hold it, but you must not be held by it. I also know there will be voices around you trying to assign different meanings to what I give. Some will say you were lucky. Others will credit it to some strategy. And still others will entice you with so-called spiritual techniques, mind rituals, and manifestation formulas disguised as shortcuts to wealth. They promise that if you perform certain steps correctly, you will control the flow of resources according to your desire. My child, I do not need you to manipulate blessing. I want you to walk in blessing. I do not teach you to bend the spiritual realm to feed human appetite. I teach you to surrender to my will so you can live in divine provision. Anything that places you in the role of the one who commands the universe is counterfeit. I have appointed you not as the ruler of heaven and earth, but as a steward, and that role is no less glorious. For the faithful steward is trusted, entrusted with secrets, and granted authority over great portions of the household. You need no hidden technique to manipulate energy. You have a Father in heaven who knows every hair on your head and knows what you need even before you ask. What I desire from you is not elaborately designed rituals, but a simple, pure, willing heart that says yes when I invite you to use what you have for something greater than yourself. As outward signs of blessing become more visible, I desire that your roots grow deeper in your inner life with me like a tree watered from within, not merely refreshed by external rain. I will call you to pause throughout the day, to look back, to give thanks, to acknowledge my fingerprints in the smallest details. It is the practice of remembering and giving thanks that keeps your heart from slowly drifting into the illusion that things just happened or came by your own strength. You have survived enough pain to know that nothing about your preservation was accidental, and that remembrance will become an invisible hedge, protecting you from pride. The one who remembers where they were rescued from becomes slow to despise others. A soul aware of the grace it has received resists the creeping disease of ingratitude. I do not want you to shrink in self-pity, but I deeply desire you to remain anchored in gratitude, not to flatter me, but to keep your heart from hardening in times of abundance. So when you begin to see tangible shifts, stability forming, financial tension easing, your long-held projects finally receiving support, doors once closed opening again, relationships healing, old dreams resurrected, I want you to rejoice and remain steady. Receive without panic. Give thanks without feeling the need to prove anything to anyone. Enjoy without losing your breath. You do not need to use blessing to retaliate against those who belittled you. I will take care of that by revealing my faithfulness over your life. Your part is to live lightly. Live generously. Live awake. Live as one who knows they are loved, chosen, and sent, my beloved child. I want to lead you deeper into a secret that few sit still long enough to understand, the secret of the flow of blessing. If you think blessing is only what you receive in your hands and do not recognize that it is designed to continue moving, you will unintentionally cause what I gave to become stagnant. When water sits too long in a closed reservoir, it grows stale, loses freshness, and no longer carries life the way it did at the beginning. But when water moves through riverbeds, across fields, through dry lands, it nourishes, cools, restores, and eventually returns to the sea. So it is with the blessing I place in your life. It is not given merely so that you may have more, but so that you may become a riverbed through which my grace and provision flow to others, returning ultimately to my glory. You lived through seasons where your mind could only think in terms of, how will I have enough? How will I survive this month? How do I make it through today? So the idea of flow feels unfamiliar. I understand that. When a person is overwhelmed by lack for too long, their mind contracts. They see each day as a battle rather than being able to perceive the larger picture. That is why, before speaking to you about being a conduit, I spent a long time healing your inner perception of scarcity. I allowed you to taste, little by little, what it feels like to be covered by my care, not to train you to endure a life of insufficiency, but to give you living proof that I am never late. And now, as I prepare to bring you into a season of more resources, more opportunities, more strength, more time, I want you to understand that this more is not merely to fill the empty spaces of old wounds, but to create capacity for flow. Imagine your life as a vessel that I once had to fill, drop by drop, just to keep from running dry. You learn to catch, hold, and measure every single drop, and that was understandable. But now I want to lift you from the position of a vessel to the position of a spring. A vessel can only hold, then eventually empties or stagnates. A spring receives, releases, renews, and stays alive because it does not keep for itself. I am not asking you to pour out everything recklessly or to give impulsively and call it sacrifice. I am not the God of disorder. Dui de la bandich ting an dai du. Theo dung yo ku kwa ban jong dio trang trong. Sao em thieng lieng. Gayun gwen mach van. Kong chia no ko. Trin bai than kak do an dai. Ro rang. Va huan tuan trung than voying ye Nguyen Ban. English translation, my beloved child. I am teaching you the art of stewardship, and within it lies an essential part discerning what portion is meant for your legitimate needs and the needs of your family. What portion is meant to be set aside for the future, and what portion I am inviting you to use to touch the lives of others. When you begin asking me questions like, Lord, how much should I keep? How should I sow? Whom should I prioritize in this season? It means you have shifted from the role of a victim to the role of a steward, and that is the role I have intended for you from the very beginning. I want you to understand that using your blessing to reach others will never make you poorer when it is done in wisdom and under my leading. Many fear that giving will lead to lack. But remember this, the one who closes their hand cannot receive more, while the one who opens their hand in discernment will always experience a steady movement of flow. I have promised that those who sow generously will reap generously. But what few understand is that generously does not refer only to quantity, it refers to the posture of the heart. Some may give much but only to display themselves, and they sow as one who casts seed into the wind. Others may give only a little, yet what they give is genuine, offered in trust, and I see that. I do not measure your blessing by the amount you give, but by the frequency of your heart while giving. Does it carry trust or fear of punishment? Does it carry joy or forced obligation? Does it carry a belief that I will take care of you? Or is it an attempt to purchase favor? Once the motives are aligned, the flow becomes clean, enduring, and deep. My beloved child, not everyone is called to stand in the flow of financial blessing, but I have chosen you to engage with that flow in a certain measure, not so you become a spiritual money machine, but so that you may learn the beautiful truth that blessing never runs dry when it moves through hands that remain pure. I will let you experience a unique kind of joy when you witness someone being lifted because my blessing flowed through you, not to inflate your pride, but to show you that you are participating in the work I am doing in their life. You will know what it is to weep when you see a family survive a critical season because my provision moved through you. You will feel a peaceful warmth when someone rekindles their hope because a hand reached out at the right moment, prayed with them, or placed into their hands a provision that spoke louder than words. And you will understand why I said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. For in the moment you become a channel, you not only witness my provision for them, but you feel once more that you yourself have been entrusted by me. But I also want you to be alert to another dimension when you step into the flow. There will be voices that try to exploit your kindness, cling to the blessing to drain you, or use guilt, emotion, or pressure to divert the flow toward themselves in unhealthy ways. That is why I have spoken to you about boundaries. You are not called to save everyone, nor to finance every story, nor to carry every tragedy on your shoulders. The Savior is me, not you. I will guide you precisely when to help, whom to help, how to help, to what extent to help, and when to say no without guilt. I do not call you to burn out because of blessing. I call you to flow rightly with blessing. There are places where I want the river to pass because I am opening a door for that person, and there are places where I will tell you to stop because I am doing a deeper work in someone's heart. And if you rush to rescue them with material help, you will inadvertently interfere with the growth I am bringing forth. That is why listening is essential. A single coin given in obedience is worth far more than a large sum given in panic. There will be moments when I will tell you to spend an evening listening to someone on the verge of breaking, instead of chasing a profitable opportunity. There will be times when I will urge you to share your story honestly, even when it embarrasses you, because someone somewhere needs that specific sentence in order not to let go. There will be moments when I will call you to use your professional skill for a group of people who cannot pay you. And in that very act, I will open doors that cannot be measured by money. In any field, I can make my blessing flow through your life. As long as you are willing and discerning of my voice, when you live this way, every day, busy or quiet, ordinary or exceptional, becomes an opportunity for grace to overflow. You cannot maintain generosity for long unless you continually return to receive from me first. You cannot keep encouraging others if you are not consistently encouraged by me. You cannot offer peace if you yourself are not filled with my peace. You cannot steward financial blessing in a holy way if you do not allow me to touch the deep motives connected to money within you. Therefore, before you think about what to do for God, I want you to return to a simpler question, Lord. What am I receiving from you today? Because if you only give without receiving, you will run dry, and if you only receive without giving, you will stagnate. Only when you both receive and pour out will you truly live according to your design. My beloved child, I want to open for you yet another depth of blessing, the depth of legacy, of things that will continue to flow even after your footsteps have left this earth. For the blessing I give you is not only to resolve present concerns, nor merely to grant you a few easier years after seasons of hardship. I think farther than you, broader than you, higher than you. And I want you to begin seeing your life not in the timeline of a few years or decades, but in the unfolding of a generational stream. Many times you have thought, I just want all of this to end with me, so the next generation will not repeat what I suffered. But my child, I do not stop at merely ending what is harmful. I also want to plant into your family line the goodness that no one before you has ever tasted. You once believed yourself to be the one who was late, left behind, or lacking. But in my eyes, you stand at a strategic point, the crossover where the old must be closed and the new must be born. You are the gate through which I am shutting invisible curses and opening the seasons of lasting blessing. My beloved child, think of those who came before you, the generations who lived in lack, in fear, bound by patterns for which they had no answers. They were not evil. They simply did not know that another path existed. Many of them did the best they could within their limitations. Some prayed clumsy prayers. Some sighed unspoken longing. Some hoped fragile hopes, wishing only that one day their children or grandchildren might live with a little more ease, more peace, more freedom. I heard every sigh. I remembered every hope. and I gathered them as seeds buried beneath the soil through many seasons. And now I choose this moment to bring them forth through your life. This is why you sometimes feel as though you are carrying not only your own story but also a weight that belongs to your family, your lineage. You feel as though if you were to collapse, something behind you would collapse as well. That feeling is not mere imagination, for I am indeed using you as a pivot, a sacred marker where old cycles are broken and new pathways begin. You have felt the weight, but what you rarely realize is that alongside that weight is a unique power and favor. I do not let you carry a lineage alone. I walk with you. I build the walls. I open the roads. I fortify the structure. In this season of revealed blessing, what I am doing is not merely bringing you out of debt or hardship, but redefining the standard for those who will look up to you. Children in your family will grow up seeing the way you live as a new normal to pray before every decision. Normal to pause and ask for my will instead of following trends. Normal to use money with reverence and gratitude. Normal to help others quietly without spectacle. Normal to refuse shortcuts that violate integrity. Normal to build a family on forgiveness rather than resentment. Normal to speak of me as someone near, not as an abstract concept. These things will imprint themselves upon them without their awareness. And one day, when they face choices, that new normal will draw them toward the light. You will not be present at every turning point in their lives, but the imprint of your life will remain in the way they view the world, in the unconscious phrases that rise from their lips, in how they handle lack or abundance. You call it family habits, but I call it kingdom culture being planted into a bloodline through a person willing to be renewed from the roots. My beloved child, I do not only want to rewrite your family's story about money, but also its story about identity, faith, and worldview. I want the children who come after you to grow up knowing they are not defined by what they lack, but by the one to whom they belong. I want the next generation to be free from the haunting fear of forever not enough, and instead learn to trust rightly that my provision will come, paired with the responsibility to steward what I entrust to them. I want them to understand that having more always comes with an invitation to love more, give more, build more, not with a license to dominate or belittle others. One day, when you tell someone that there were years when you had to calculate every small expense, when there were nights you lay awake not knowing how you would make things work, they may struggle to imagine it because they will only see you in the season where I have lifted you. But that honest story, unpolished, unboastful, will become the bridge between what they witness and the true source of the blessing me. And I am not only touching those who carry your blood, but also those who will carry your imprint in their spirit souls I send to you, for whom you will become a spiritual parent. There will be people, unrelated by blood yet tied to your destiny, who will see in you a different model of walking with me, not perfect, not pretentious, but authentic, steady, tender, and bold, as they learn from you how to steward blessing, how to stand firm in trials, how to keep their hearts pure when elevated. It will be as though you are sowing seeds into another field, and the harvest that grows there will also be recorded in your legacy. You will not be able to count how many will endure because they saw you refuse to give up, how many will keep believing because they read, heard, or felt a word I spoke through your mouth. How many will dare to break out of cycles of inner poverty because they encountered, through your story, the truth that I do not abandon anyone. All these quiet changes in the lives you touch are the spiritual wealth you will carry with you when you cross from this life into the next. This is why, when I speak to you about financial blessing, I am not merely speaking of numbers, I am speaking of the environment in which money is placed in its proper context as part of a much larger picture of restoration, of family healing, of community building, of generational encouragement. I remain your Jehovah Jireh. I still know exactly what you need today, and I will continue to provide. But I am also the author of history, and I am using your very life to rewrite the story of a lineage. You once asked me, did the years I suffered mean anything at all? And today I answer yes. They prepared the foundation for a legacy beyond anything you have yet imagined. Do not underestimate the scope of what I am doing simply because your eyes can only see the first steps. Continue living each day with faithfulness, with wise generosity, with attentiveness, with the posture of an heir rather than a wanderer. Every right decision made in my presence. Every moment you choose faith over fear. Every time you use blessing to build rather than display, becomes another stone in the eternal structure I am building through you. My beloved child, I want to teach you a lesson that, once grasped, will allow you to walk lightly amidst acceleration without losing the sacred rest within the art of living by grace instead of pressure, living by flow instead of frantic striving, living by heaven's pace rather than the world's haste. For, my child, the enemy does not only attack you in seasons of lack, it also seeks to attack you in seasons of abundance, not only preying upon your weakness, but lurking in moments of expansion, hoping to turn the season of acceleration into a season of exhaustion by replacing my rhythm of grace with the world's frantic churn. If before it whispered to you, God has forgotten you, then in this season it will whisper, you must hold on with all your might so you do not lose what you just received. And through that voice it attempts to pull you out of the rest I have labored so long to restore within your soul. My beloved child, grace is not merely forgiveness for the past, it is the lifting strength for your present and the breath for your future. Grace does not only pull you out of the pit, it also guides you every step on the new road. Grace is not only present when you stumble, it is with you in every decision you make at the crossroads. My acceleration is not like the world's acceleration. The world's acceleration is often purchased with exhaustion and traded for a neglect of the inner life, with hidden compromises that eventually make the soul poor, even if outwardly there is abundance. But my acceleration is a rising momentum that allows you to keep a peaceful heartbeat, to hear my voice amid countless calls, to preserve room for stillness and praise in your daily rhythm, and to pause simply to breathe deeply and remind your heart, I am not carrying my own life. You are the one who carries me. If you measure acceleration by the number of tasks you accomplish, you will always feel behind. But if you measure it by how freely I can act in you and through you, you will begin to see that often I accomplish the most in the days when you learn to rest more deeply. I know you have honest questions in your heart. If I rest, will I fall behind? If I do not seize every opportunity, will I miss what I prayed for? If I do not push harder, will I be seen as ungrateful for the blessing, my child? These questions reveal the whispers of wounds, still unhealed wounds from times when you were truly left behind, when your efforts went unseen, when you felt you were always one step late. I do not dismiss those realities, but I tell you this, you no longer live under that same system. You do not walk according to the clock of fear, but according to the schedule of the one who wrote your days before any of them came to be. When I open a door for you, no one can snatch it away. When I assign a moment to you, no rumor can block it. When I seal a season of acceleration over your life, none of your own delays can ruin it. As long as you stay close to me, the only thing that can steal your rest is forgetting that I am the source and beginning to behave as though you are. So I will teach you a new rhythm, the rhythm of alternating between stepping and pausing, between doing and listening, between building and being built. I will call you to carve sacred moments into your days, moments when you intentionally withdraw from the noise, not to abandon responsibility, but to remember who is carrying the heaviest part of the journey. It may be a few minutes each morning before you touch any screen, so your heart can touch me before it is pulled into the current of news, messages, demands, and expectations. It may be a midday moment when you step back half a pace, breathe deeply, and whisper, "Lord, reset my priorities. Do not let me chase anything you did not call me to." It may be evenings when you silence unnecessary noise so you can sit quietly. Review the day with me, count the small interventions, and place tomorrow's worries into my hands. These simple practices are the very cords that keep your soul from being swept away by the flood of momentum. A life that looks busy outwardly but holds no inward pauses with me will soon dry out, but a life that moves quickly yet preserves holy stillness will become like a river, strong, deep, unshakable. I will also teach you to distinguish between the doors I open and the doors that merely appear open. Heaven's acceleration is not measured by the number of projects you take on, the number of yeses you say, or the number of relationships you struggle to maintain. Sometimes acceleration is when I call you to close a few doors so you can focus on fewer things but more deeply. Fewer connections but more aligned. Fewer yeses but each one wholehearted. You lived seasons when you agreed to too much because you feared losing opportunities, only to lose yourself instead. Now I want you to learn the opposite lesson, the courage to say no in a season of many choices, so you can say yes fully to what I truly call you to. Every no obeyed because you heard. My voice is a shield protecting you from fragmentation. Every no to what is not yours becomes a larger yes for what I am building. Acceleration is not about holding everything. It is about moving faster, straighter, with fewer detours on the road designed uniquely for you, and to live in grace without being pulled into the currents of pressure. You must allow me to heal your relationship with your own self. For a long time, you have spoken to yourself with harsher words than anyone else ever has. You have condemned yourself for old mistakes, scolded yourself for being tired, pushed yourself to be better, faster, stronger, as though only then would you deserve what I give. But I say this to you, I did not call you to be the jailer of your own soul. I called you to be a companion to yourself under my loving gaze. When you speak to yourself with words I never spoke, you work against the very healing I am doing. When you treat yourself like a machine that must constantly produce, you forget that I created you first as a soul to love and be loved, not as an instrument to manufacture outcomes. I want to teach you to speak to yourself with the same kindness I have used toward you, to rest when I tell you to rest, to encourage yourself when you are weary, to forgive yourself when you stumble, to slow down when your heart feels heavy. The kindness you show yourself is not indulgence. It is alignment with my healing rhythm. My beloved child, I see before you a future full of doors, callings, invitations, projects, and pathways. Some will impress others, and some will be quiet treasures known only to you. Amid all of this, I do not require you to prove yourself worthy of blessing. I simply invite you to walk step by step with me so I can show you what truly belongs to you. What is merely the echo of someone else's ambition? What is an honor I have assigned? And what is a sweet trap in disguise? If you stay near me, if you let my peace be your measure, if you let my word, not the standards of those around you, be your compass. You will discover that acceleration and rest can indeed walk together. You can be busy and still be calm. Carry many responsibilities without being crushed. Expand in influence without hardening your heart. Grow in visibility without losing tenderness. And walk through open doors without losing the quiet place where we commune. This is the life under grace, a life in which every movement flows from, "You loved me first," not from "I must prove I am enough." My child, if your heart still carries hesitations, fears, or questions that have not yet found their way into words, I hear every one of them, and I will continue to whisper, to teach, to shape you, so you may learn to live fully in this very season of acceleration without losing the rest I labored to sow back into your soul. Learn to walk with me not by the rhythm of fear, but by the rhythm of trust. For if outwardly you say you trust me, yet inwardly every decision is driven by thoughts like, "If I don't do it, everything will fall apart. If I don't push, I'll lose what I have. If I don't grab it now, no one will ever give me another chance," then you are still living under the old pressure, only dressed in spiritual language. I am not inviting you into a hurried life with a newly painted name. I am inviting you into an entirely different reality, a place where every step is grounded in the gentle assurance that your Father has been here before you, has walked ahead of you, has prepared good works for you to enter. So you do not need to snatch, compete, or force doors open by your own strength. You are allowed to knock, to step forward, to prepare and to engage, but all of it rests upon "I have opened," not "you must break in." When that posture settles deeply into your spirit, you will find yourself making entirely different choices. You will turn down opportunities that contradict the deepest values within you. Even if the external benefits seem great, you will pause to ask me before signing something that unsettles your soul. You will dare to remain where I tell you to remain. Even if another place looks brighter, you will dare to walk away from alluring invitations that carry no peace. This is not timidity or avoidance. It is the courage of one who knows they are loved. One who knows they do not need to fight for a place in a world of scarcity, but are walking on a road prepared by the God of abundance. My child, I also want to restore how you view productivity and results. Because for many years you have been trapped under an invisible measurement if you do not accomplish enough in a day. You accuse yourself if you do not check off everything you wrote down. You think you have failed. If others move faster, you feel behind. If someone succeeds by the world's standards, you feel the need to run harder so you won't be left. I see the moments when you sit before a long list of tasks with a heavy heart, not because the tasks themselves are too much, but because deep within, you have believed your worth is tied to how many lines you can cross off. I see the times when you drive yourself to exhaustion, not because I prompted you, but because an old voice continues to whisper, "Do more, just a little more. Then you will be acceptable." My beloved, I do not measure your life by the number of projects, the contracts, the accolades, or the figures in your account. I measure your life by how well you know me, by how you love others, by whether my spirit can move freely through you, by your ability to keep a soft heart even after many bitter seasons. When you work, I do not stand beside you with a whip. I stand as a tender father, watching to see if you are stretching beyond your limits, forgetting that your body needs rest, or neglecting precious relationships for the sake of glamorous emptiness. I do not call you laziness, but I have never asked you to burn yourself until your soul is reduced to ashes, a lamp that burns steadily, replenished at the right time. shines far longer than a torch that flares brightly for a moment and dies out. To help you live in this healthy rhythm, I will lead you through a very real process. I will touch the things you cling to most tightly and ask, will you place this into my hands? Sometimes it is a long-held plan. Sometimes an image you've built of yourself. Sometimes the obsession with seizing every opportunity to change your life. Sometimes a relationship you fear releasing because you're afraid of loneliness. I do not ask to take from you. I ask so you may see what truly rules your heart. For only when you recognize what has become a little savior in my place can you allow me to resume my rightful position. You will discover that each time you lay down something you have been straining to hold, you become a little lighter. Your breathing becomes deeper, and peace expands. And precisely in the space where you thought you were losing something, I make room for what truly belongs. I will also teach you to discern between my prompting and the pressure of fear. My prompting carries clarity. Even when courage is required, it brings peace. Even amid major change, it opens space for your soul to grow. But the pressure of fear comes with frantic urgency. Now, immediately, or else. And it suffocates you, giving you no room to pause and listen. It convinces you that if you do not save yourself, no one will. When invitations like these come, practice standing still for a moment. Bring them into the secret place where only you and I are present. And ask, Lord, is this from you or from my fear? I will faithfully answer, sometimes with unease that signals avoidance, sometimes with a deep steadiness despite uncertainties, helping you know you can move forward. And amid all I teach you about rest within increase, I never forget that you live in a real world with deadlines, bills, responsibilities, complex relationships, and long seasons of waiting. I am not asking you to close your eyes to reality and call it faith. I am teaching you to look reality in the face without allowing it to become your master. There will be days when your schedule is full, yes. I know. There will be seasons when you must stretch yourself more than usual because a project must be completed or a great door has opened. I know that as well. There will be nights when you must stay awake a little longer to care for someone you love or resolve something unfinished. I do not blame you. But even in those moments, I whisper, do not forget that I am here. Right in the midst of this intensity, you can invite me into every detail. You can entrust even the smallest matters to me. As you practice bringing me into every part of your life, from stressful meetings and difficult conversations to unexpected disruptions and sudden shortages, you will notice something unusual. The outward circumstances may not shift immediately, but inside, you are no longer alone, and that sense of not alone is what keeps you from being crushed. I want you to taste deeply the truth that rest does not mean never being busy or never being tired. It means that in both busyness and fatigue, you always have a place to return to, someone to lean on, a voice louder than all others, arms wider than any pressure. When you live from that place, you become someone entirely different. You work without being defined by your work. You succeed without being imprisoned by the image of the successful one. You face challenges without being dragged back into the pit of despair as before. You move quickly, but remain steady. And every step carries the fragrance of grace. My beloved child, I do not promise you a journey without storms, but I promise that if you let me lead, you will learn how to walk through the storm without letting the storm enter your heart. And that is the secret of those who experience increase while keeping sacred stillness within. They do not rely on their own strength, but on the one who loved them to the end. My child, when your identity is rightly grounded, you will no longer be shaken every time circumstances shift. You will no longer fear losing what I give. You will no longer return to the old road of worrying. Will I have enough? Can I keep this? What if I fail? What if the blessing is temporary? All these questions spring from a deep fear of unworthiness. I have watched you many times striving with all your might just to prove that you deserve to be loved, deserve to be kept, deserve to be blessed. I have seen you live as though every moment were a test, and one misstep would cost you everything. But now I declare to you, you are no longer living from the position of one who must prove themselves, but from the position of one who has been chosen, and my choice does not waver with your emotions or circumstances. You have looked at others far too many times and concluded that you are slower, weaker, lacking foundation, not naturally gifted like them, not as supported as they are, not as equipped as they seem to be. These comparisons have seeped into you like water dripping onto stone over many long days, wearing down the confidence you once held in yourself. There were moments when you did not dare to receive something good, believing that it suits someone else better. I'm not enough. I won't know how to keep it. I failed too often, and so you entered the spiritual life as someone who half believes, half doubts your own worth before me. Remember this, I do not make plans for you based on someone else's strengths. I do not call your name according to their standards. I do not shape you according to any human mold. You are a unique design, carved, molded, and prepared by my hands through every season you have walked. The years you thought you were lost were actually the very years I was laying a deeper foundation so you would not collapse when lifted up. The moments you perceived as failures were the moments I stripped illusions of self-dependence so your heart could become soft and perceptive. The days you spent in darkness, believing them meaningless, were the days I stretched a net beneath your future, one you could not yet see. When you compare yourself with others, you only look at appearances, but I look at the entire process through which I have personally shepherded you, through every fracture and every choked-back tear. Therefore, I want you to step into the reality of an heir, not a beggar. A beggar always fears rejection, fears being forgotten, fears not meeting expectations, but an heir walks with a deep peace, knowing their portion has already been prepared, already appointed, already signed and sealed, beyond the reach of anyone else. A beggar tries to do more to compensate for a sense of lack. An heir focuses on doing rightly, knowing there is no need to strain to prove anything. A beggar treats blessings as fragile and easily lost. An heir sees everything I give as the continuation of an eternal covenant. I have called you by covenant, one that is not rooted in your perfection but in my faithfulness. Nothing you do better or worse can change my mind about what I have spoken over your life. And from that place, from the identity of an heir, you will learn the secret of sustainability and increase. When you no longer fear losing, you will no longer try to hold everything by your own strength. You will move more lightly, decide more clearly, dwell more peacefully. And this posture itself becomes the very atmosphere where blessings can remain. Blessing flows not only from what you hold, but from the person you become, and that person is formed when you live from your true identity. You are my child. When you truly believe this, you will no longer feel the need to fight for recognition, for I have already reserved a place for you that no one can steal. You will no longer fear others going ahead, for your portion is not hidden inside theirs. You will no longer feel late, for you walk in my timing, not in the schedule of human ambition. Child, when you step deeply into the identity of being loved, an entirely different atmosphere will form inside you, gentler, brighter, steadier. Your words toward yourself and toward others will become less harsh. Your decisions will be slow enough to listen rather than rush out of fear of missing out. Your view of challenges will shift, for you will understand that they do not come to break you, but to deepen you so you can carry greater blessing later on. You will find that you no longer act out of fear of failure, but out of trust that something good is awaiting you. You will no longer choose shortcuts to escape hardship, but choose the straight path that keeps your soul clean. You will no longer treat pressure as an enemy, but see it as a sign that you are stepping onto larger ground. My beloved one, when you stand in this truth, every increase becomes safe for your soul. You will not lose your rest when great things draw near. You will not panic when life shifts suddenly. You will not clutch blessings as though guarding something fragile, but will tend them like someone caring for what already belongs to them, knowing that I remain the source of all you have. And you will witness something beautiful the more firmly you stand in your true identity. The more easily you discern my leading, the more clearly you hear my voice in stillness. The more naturally you recognize what truly belongs to you and what is merely a sweet imitation. Thank you for listening to today's message. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so we can continue receiving living words together, building unshakable faith and walking in the boundless love of God. Amen.